What's going on, you guys, and welcome back to the Aray Show. So many of you guys heard by now the giant deal between AT&T's asset Warner Media and Discovery, and of course this had giant implications not only for AT&T but for the streaming service industry and for AT&T's dividend. So of course I'll go over all that in this video as well as my reaction and what I'm doing inside of my portfolio. So if you guys want to see that, stay tuned and cue that intro. So let's get straight into the headlines. So AT&T announces a $43 billion deal to merge Warner Media with Discovery. And as we mentioned before, Warner Media is a giant asset of AT&T in the entertainment and streaming service industry. So what's going on here is basically Warner Media, an asset of AT&T, is merging with Discovery to form a brand new company. And as you can see down here in the key points, Discovery shareholders would own 29% of that new company, which is basically Warner Media and Discovery combined, which doesn't have a name yet, and AT&T shareholders would own the other 71%. So if you own some of the stock in AT&T, you would get 71% of that new company if this merger happens to take place. So that's what's going on over here. So that new company between Warner Media and Discovery sounds amazing and all, but let's focus in on what this has to do with AT&T. So right off the bat, AT&T is getting around $43 billion, which will really help them clear out their debt. And as we all know, AT&T struggled with growing their dividend at a higher rate because they had such a high payout ratio and they were in a lot of debt. So in a way, this really helps out AT&T focus mainly on their growing their dividends in the long term and also on their main business, telecom. So it looks like AT&T is no longer catering towards vertical integration, but now they're focusing on their biggest asset, their telecommunication. So in the long term, this could really help them out just because sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. So in my opinion, I think that at least was a great move. So let's take a closer look on what I mean by that. So this is AT&T and their dividend stats, as I like to call them. So you can see this is the dividend summary where we got a dividend yield of 7%. And honestly, that's phenomenal. To be honest, most of the people investing with AT&T are looking for that current income. So that's where that 7% dividend yield really comes to play. And then on top of that, you can see the payout ratio is sitting at a kind of unhealthy situation at 66%. It's not the worst, but 66% is still pretty high. And if you take a look, this is really the weakness of AT&T, and that's that 5-year growth rate. You can see it's only 1.83%, which is very, very low. If you're looking to build a long-term dividend growth, 1.83% is not going to cut it. You're honestly not even keeping up with inflation at that point. So that's kind of the situation and what's going on with AT&T and its dividend. And honestly, with this merger, there's going to be a lot of implications on AT&T's dividend, and we'll get right into that. So here's another article, and by the way, I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can check out all the articles I used for this video. So honestly, one of the biggest implications about this merger is that AT&T is going to have to cut their dividend, which really sucks, especially if you're a current dividend investor, meaning that you want your current income right now. So the reasoning behind this actually is very logical and it makes sense because AT&T is kind of sending off one of their biggest assets in Warner Media. Of course, their revenue is going to decrease, meaning that if they have kept the same dividend payout ratio, that payout ratio would be a lot higher because they're not making the same amount of revenue. So to kind of cope with that, they're going to have to cut their dividend. Like I said before, it makes sense, it's logical, and it does suck, and a lot of people are going to be pissed off, but again, guys, it is logical. Assuming that this merger does take place, AT&T will probably cut their dividend yield from 7% to what analysts are predicting around 5% dividend yield. And honestly, in my opinion, that's not that bad at all. Like I said before in the video, sometimes it's really important to take a step back in order to move forward. So again, guys, this dividend cut is going to really hurt, but at the long term, if you're a long-term investor, it's going to be really helpful because they're going to be lowering their payout ratio right now. This means that they can grow their dividend over time. And honestly, on top of that, a 5% dividend yield isn't that bad at all. It still places them around the 95th percentile of dividend payers. And on top of that, another thing to kind of look forward to is that capital appreciation. So this author highlights that because of this merger, a 15 to 25% total return looks highly achievable over the next 1 to 2 years. And really, they're looking at a target of $60 per share, which is huge. And if you guys are investing into AT&T right now, you know that AT&T really doesn't appreciate in price. It sits around that $20, $29, $30 mark, and it's been there for like the past 2, 3 years. Now, with this 5% dividend yield, it has a higher chance to grow their dividend and also their capital appreciation. And honestly, this is going to bring me to my favorite point is that yield on cost is going to grow like crazy. So if you're getting a 5% dividend yield right now at $30, imagine your yield on cost when it goes to $60. And that's something I like as a long-term investor. So if you take a look right now, it's currently giving about a 7% dividend yield. In 1991, it was giving 16.86% dividend yield. So in that almost 30-year time span, it only went up about 9%, which is very low if you compare it to a stock like Apple or Texas Instruments or AbbVie. And honestly, you can see that there's going to be a giant difference in yield on cost. You could get that 16% with Apple maybe 3, 4 years ago. In the case of AT&T, that would be 30 years ago. So we're really going to get this huge yield on cost advantage where we're really growing that dividend over long term, hopefully with that capital appreciation. So that's one thing that I like about the outcome of this possible merger. So we talked about the merger and we talked about the dividend cut for AT&T. Let's talk about what I'm going to do with my own personal position in the AT&T stock. So this is my dividend growth portfolio and this is my telecom sector, which is about 6% of my overall portfolio for my dividend growth. So we've got 4 companies inside my telecom sector. I've got Qualcomm, AT&T, Disney, and Verizon. So AT&T makes about 30% of my telecom sector, which comes out to be about 1.8% of my overall dividend growth portfolio, which honestly is a very small position. So in my opinion, I really don't have to worry about it too much because this is a small thing in my portfolio. In most people's portfolio, especially if you're looking for current income, AT&T is probably going to make up a lot bigger position in your portfolio. So in my case, I'm looking for a long-term dividend growth, so I'm not really worried too much about getting income right now, and that's why this news doesn't really have much effect on me. And typically, I don't like to sell out of any companies unless I see a huge fundamental change. And yeah, this is a fundamental change, but at the same time, it's not that big enough for me to sell out. And right now, this merger is still not 100% going to happen, so that's why I'm still keeping my AT&T stock. At the very least, I might change my allocation up a little bit. But again, guys, if AT&T does have this merger and it does appreciate over price, my yield on cost is going to explode. On top of that, because I own AT&T before the merger, I'm going to get 71% stake in the new company between Warner Media and Discovery. So that company is going to be great. And honestly, I really like that potential. In my opinion, I think that that new company between Warner Media and Discovery is going to be kind of like a third or maybe even a fourth in the streaming service industry. So of course we've got Netflix, we've got Disney, Disney Plus, Hulu, and then now we've got this company. HBO Max, in my opinion, is huge. So hopefully that company is going to be great. It's not going to pay out a dividend as we've seen from that article from before. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, so the new Warner Discovery won't pay out a dividend, which kind of sucks. But again, you guys are getting 2 companies for the price of one, which is really cool. 71% stake in that company. So it is what it is. And also, I kind of like having 2 different companies. Now I know AT&T is that boring company that's going to focus on telecom, but hopefully I'll have a lot of capital appreciation and a higher yield on cost in the long term. And then this new company probably has a lot of chance for growth potential as well. So who knows where this is going. Honestly, if this merger does go through, I'm probably still going to keep my shares of AT&T. Like I said before, I only own about 2 shares, about $67, which isn't a lot, but I'm going to keep growing this position to a larger amount in hopes that AT&T is going to appreciate in the long term, and also this new company has some growth potential in the future. So that's where I really stand right now. In my opinion, I think that AT&T has a lot of potential as a boring company, and as a boring company, you usually know that those companies are going to be great, you know, the Warren Buffett effect and all. And then this new company is going to be a little bit more fun. And honestly, it brings me to a really flexible position where I can liquidate some of my shares, I can change my allocation. But if this merger does go through, and I don't like the outcome of that new company, I can always sell it and allocate that to a different company or any other company that I want. So that's a really great thing about a dividend portfolio in my portfolio. So that's why I'm just going to keep growing that position, and that's why I'm not selling right now. Now, on the other side of things, if you're a current income investor, honestly, this is probably going to sting a lot, especially because just a few months ago, management literally told us that the dividend safe is going nowhere, and out of nowhere, there's this merger. So clearly, something's been going on. Either they were lying straight up to us, or this deal just came out of nowhere, and it kind of sucks. So With that being said, if you're a current investor, in my opinion, I would probably liquidate half my shares and keep the half because you never know. This merger might not take place and that 7% is always there. But also at the same time, there is chance for potential growth if you're willing to wait that amount. If you're just looking for current income right now and you really don't have too much wiggle room, then I would probably just liquidate and go to the next best dividend company. So honestly, it does suck, but at the end of the day, if you're a current income investor, it's probably a tough decision to make. But either way, guys, remember, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. I'm just saying my own opinions. So whatever it is, let me know in the comments down below what you guys are planning to do, whether you guys are keeping this company or if you guys are selling out, change your allocation or liquidating some of it, half of your shares, whatever it is, let me know in the comments down below. So with that being said, we talked about AT&T a lot. Let's talk about this new formation of this new company. All right, so you can see the two merger companies right over here. We've got Discovery and we've got Warner Media. Discovery owns Discovery Plus, Food Network, TLC, and pretty much all of these over here. And from what I know, Discovery Plus is a streaming service which has been growing over the past few months. Although it's not as big as Disney Plus and all, it's still been growing. And then we've got Warner Media, which in my opinion has a huge selection and a great diversity. So we've got HBO Max, which is probably the third or fourth best streaming service out there, Cartoon Network, DC, which I love their universe, CNN, TNT, Adult Swim. So of course they've got a huge selection, and if you combine the both of these together, they got so much diversification and a huge selection. So honestly, in my opinion, I seriously think that this new company will probably be part of a big three with Disney Plus and Netflix. And I think that this company has a lot of potential. One bad thing about this company is they're going to take on a lot of debt. And when I mean a lot, I mean a lot of debt from AT&T. And on top of that, they're planning to spend so much money, even more than Netflix, to create their own content. So honestly, they're probably going to start from behind and have to kind of work their way up. I do like their subscription model, which obviously they haven't even released anything about that yet, but I'm just assuming because it's going to be a streaming service that there is going to be a subscription model, which typically is good for a business because it builds a reliable income. We'll just have to see if they're going to pull up or not. Hopefully they'll be able to create nice and new original content, which will help boost their company. But right now, I still think that the debt is going to hurt them in the short term, but hopefully in the long term, building this content will help them. So guys, let me know in the comments down below if you guys would invest in this new company, if you guys are selling your AT&T shares or not, or if you guys are holding them, and what you guys are planning to do if you guys are keeping them and you're getting this company as well. And also guys, let me know if you would be willing to subscribe to this new company and getting their new product and their streaming service. So let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you guys for watching my videos, and take it easy. And guys, remember, everybody eats.